Thank you very much, CICTFRX, for that powerful performance. Kuya, wala ka bang pakanta dyan? Ako na magpa-perform. Sure. Wala na tayong oras para sa performance ko. Pero we need to say hi to the second half of the Power Stone, the exploration of developmental research. So, this is our second pangmalakasan speaker. He is a SR data scientist with years of experience in implementing projects in analytics for data-driven solutions for internal management. He is experienced at designing machine learning models, using statistical algorithms to create recommendation engines, develop anomaly detection, generate predictive models, and produce data analysis to help direct the management in a data governance environment. Please let us welcome Mr. Aries J.V. Ganza.
Yep. So, hi everyone. Can you guys hear me properly? All right. Let me just pull out my slide. Okay. We'll stop other participants. Okay. Just hold on a second. All right. Can you guys please confirm if you can now see my screen? The one with developmental research?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Yeah, so greetings everyone. Once again, thanks for inviting Exceed Philippines. So allow me to cover this particular part of your series, which is about the exploration of developmental research. So before we go in there, let me just reintroduce myself. So as what was mentioned, I'm actually one of the co-founders of this very humble nonprofit IT organization called Exceed Philippines. And I'm still a certified teacher by heart because that was actually one of my previous professions way back then. And some of my hobbies are already written there, like taking pictures, video editing, watching anime, K-drama, American series, particularly different top, Netflix genres or series or movies to watch. Those are the things that are the contents that I usually watch. Yeah, and about me right now, I think you guys have an outdated resume in your reference. I'm currently a data scientist now in Boom AI. So if you don't know Boom AI, it's actually one of the startup companies right now in US. If you know Silicon Valley or Silicon Slopes, like the one in California, where companies like Facebook, Amazon, AWS, and all of this well-known companies actually originated. And my company is also with that Silicon Valley area, or it's actually part of that technological advancement companies right now, globally speaking. And also, I do part time, which is I'm currently a chief data scientist now for a startup company here in the Philippines called Better Team Technologies. And those are some of the previous professions and the things that I had accumulated over the past for my professional background. Yeah, so that's about me. Just a very, very quick intro about your speaker. So yeah, so let's talk about research. Let's dig dive already to this webinar proper for this particular discussion. So to give you a context, when talk about research, there are really lots of methodologies right now. For some that's non-IT, they do, for example, descriptive research, or there in our field we do it like the developmental part, which is we develop systems, applications, we engineer something, or we do product offerings. Whereas for other researchers, they only or not only, it's like degrading other researchers, but they actually provide more on the descriptive part, more of the analysis phase, and more of proving something. So that's the research that we are dealing. But for now, let's talk about this concept of research and why is it so important to understand this in order to later on be able to address what's with the developmental for this approach. So research, this is kind of like, a definition for us to kickstart this one. So research is the creation of new knowledge and or the use of existing knowledge in a new and creative way so as to generate new concepts, methodologies, and understandings. So let's highlight there the word new concepts, methodologies, and understandings. So if we look at the word research, or if we try to imagine how we do it, research is not about, just Googling things. That's not research. That's what we call, collecting information. But when we talk about the research itself, it means that you are proving something, you are solving a particular challenge or problem, and that's what we call research. So okay, there are some misconceptions kasi diba pag nag-Google ka, napad mo siya sa YouTube, laging anong binabanggit natin is na-research ko yan eh. It's not a research because you are not solving anything. You're not providing new concepts. You're just accumulating list of information. You're just like tabulating it, and that's, a pool of resources that you have, but that's not research alone. Okay, that's something that you have to be reminded, especially what we are about to do in our field of study, which is the information technology. Now, I have here one of the things that I think you guys have probably saw before. So it's actually this video of Cynthia Villar, if you know her. I hope you know her kasi she's one of our senators. So according to her, there's this quote that she mentioned. This one, sabi niya, baliw na baliw kayo sa research. And I think most of us, like me, I just saw it as a meme. I just saw it like as an edit. But I don't understand the context of what she's saying. Basta nakakatawan lang siya kasi parang it's like telling the, in social media that it's really crazy to do research, then that's it. That's our context. However, Cynthia Villar, according to the news article that I've seen and I also read, she's actually like grilling the Department of Agriculture when it comes to the budget. So we also have to understand that if we really want to discover something, you have to rely on the context of what we are seeing or what we are actually watching. And I actually conducted some, digging of what is the context behind this statement. So according to the interview, I think that was in Unang Hirit. Napanood ko siya dun sa parang video lang. Sabi niya, ang concern niya kasi, gusto ba daw ng farmer yung research? Yung bang research na yan is something na maintindihan nila, ma-appreciate nila, or something na, that's very helpful in their way of living or in their way of work right now. And according to the budget that she's mentioning, we already had a budget, for example, in calamity assistance, which is 260 million. And for research, I think that was 140 million. And that's why in total, that's 400 million. So sinasabi niya doon, bakit ang laki-laki ng pinoprovide na budget for the research? Bakit hindi like parang hati for the research and then hati to help our farmers? So yun yung context na sinasabi niya. And in the long term, we know that research is very important, especially that it will greatly affect how the mechanism in terms of, farming, it will really impact. However, what Cynthia Villar is that it's not something that the farmers will really appreciate at the moment. Kasi di ba when it comes to research, it will really take your time. It has to be built upon certain ideas and concepts before it's going to be implemented. And Cynthia Villar really insisted and really grilling the Department of Agriculture that time na dapat balance yung budget, as what I mentioned, 50% for the farmers, like helping them, the seedings, helping them to have, different machineries for them to harvest way more, or let's say faster. And 50% for the research. Kasi right now with research, di ba, parang it's something that's not tangible. Like for some, actually, to be honest, like in my field of artificial intelligence or data science, it has to, undergo some in terms of training, we need, for example, 1 year worth of data. So for that worth of 1 year, we have to, do some analysis for quite some time. However, the output, it's really, costing the company and as well as the organization as a whole. So I do understand both perspectives, but in the sentiment of our senator here, she really insisted that it should be something tangible for the farmers as well. Yeah, anyway, so I have a question here for you guys. Nabaliw na ba kayo sa research? Ayan. So, by the way, kudos to Cynthia Villar. Can you type it there in the Zoom chat? Or, I don't know, in the live chat in Facebook, if nabaliw na ba kayo sa research? Can you type yes? If yes, and bakit kaya yes? Ba't kayo nabaliw sa research? Okay? So, I would like to see some of those answers if something na nabaliw na kayo or really challenged when it comes to that. Okay. All right. Sige. I guess I'll just get back to that answer later. So for this one, I have another video. Let me know if you can hear this sound.
Lagi kami yung...
Were you able to hear it? Can someone please confirm?
Yes po.
All right. Let me just play this video. One of the trending videos as well in social media. So let me just pull it up.
Lagi kami yung sinisita, pero hindi, pansin ko, hindi nila inaaral ng mabuti. Sana nagkaroon muna ng research before magkaroon na ng solution and answer. Kasi ang nangyari, nagkaroon ng title, walang hypothesis and conclusion, pero may solution and answer na agad.
Ayan. So, very interesting in your capstone. You haven't presented any proposal. It's really something that students are really practicing even today, that you guys are only focused on what you're about to develop. So minsan, 'di ba, parang gusto natin point of sales na lang, or sales inventory na lang, or library system na lang, or 2D game, 3D game, stuff like that. Whenever we want to develop something, it should not be based on what we are about to develop, but it should be based on our research. And this is or one of the reasons why students right now, not just in the previous school that I actually taught, but across different colleges and universities, because they don't really understand that research should be the first step before coming up with any development. Usually kasi, di ba, parang pag proposal, like jump in agad dun sa gusto, jump in agad dun sa parang gustong i-develop, without really undertaking the challenges or problems probably faced by a client that they will want to propose it, or it can be a target audience or target market where they will actually have the application or solutions to be used by them. So this is something that is also very true, especially if you're going to have your defense already. Diba, ang tinatanong ng panel is not actually the development right away. They will always focus on their questions when it comes to research. It's the other way around. And if you look at it on your thought patterns as a student, it's actually the other way around as well. So parang it's not something na step by step for you guys, especially that you probably don't understand how really developmental research really works. And this is what we are going to unpack for the succeeding slides for now. Okay? So what's the value of research? So we need to understand the importance of the research itself. So I have here just two highlights. The first one is that research provides an opportunity to generalize our findings and bakit, for example, ang implement is computerized system or web-based or mobile or game or an AI or whatsoever. Pag tinanong kayo madalas, 'di ba, bakit nyo dinevelop yan? Di ba may memes din tayo sa social media? Parang ang lagi sagot ng iba doon, kasi sabi niyo po sir, kasi sabi niyo po ma'am. So hindi dapat ganun ang way ng thinking natin when it comes to research, when it comes to doing this capstone and thesis. It has to be founded on an understanding of really taking the research as its face value. It's not something that you just did, but it's something that is undergone through several steps and several series of processes. And this is something that you want to undergo because you want to find or to have a solution or these findings that we are talking about. And the second point out here is that it helps to reduce the complexity of problems, discover the relationship between seemingly unrelated events, and ultimately improve the way we live. This is very true, especially in our concept of research, which is developmental, because our ultimate goal is to improve the lives of the people, the company, and the organizations that we are building upon the solution with. So research is not just about proving something for us, but its ultimate goal is to really help and to make our lives convenient. Especially, iba yung future research natin or the one we are doing right now is what we call the artificial intelligence, the data science, the robotics, the Internet of Things. It leans towards to that kind of advancement. And this is very true for us that this is the true value of what we are doing right now as a researcher. And for the next part, let me just highlight here some of the research ethical dilemmas. So it's important for us, especially that we are doing our capstone and thesis. So this is the context that I will want to give for all of you. And this is something that you have to remember, especially on how to approach these ethical issues or concerns. So actually, you have here three. So this is about research in terms of collecting data or gathering data in terms of doing it with a group of respondents or even doing it with a client or a company. So there's this concept called as anonymity, confidentiality, and privacy. So anonymity, from the term anonymous, it means that the information provided by, for example, a participant should no way reveal their identity, meaning it has to be anonymous. The second point out here is the confidentiality. From the term, it has to be secured. Although there are quite some time, like for example, researchers know how to provide the information or able to identify that, there are several participants from the information given. They have to keep in mind that they have no way to make those information publicly because this one has to undergone security. So that's the concept of the confidentiality. While the third one is called as the privacy, which is the concept of the sensitivity of the information. So for example, I'm not going to talk about, the statistical part already, but for example, if ang approach nyo is purposive sampling in stat, pag sabi purposive, it's like it is given to those participants with a purpose. For example, ang gusto mo conductan ng study is yung mga taong may HIV. So, ibig sabihin, purposive, yung way ng pag-deliver mo ng or pag data gather mo is doon na sa mga taong may HIV. So, hindi ka namang mag-conduct ng data gathering sa taong walang HIV. That's why in terms of stats, that's called as purposive sampling because it has to be identified to the right person. And in terms to you by the previous speakers or probably from your previous events. But let me tell you that your mobile phone knows you better than your family and friends. Again, let me repeat, your mobile phone right now, either Android, iOS, or whatsoever operating system, that phone that you have right now knows you better than your family and friends. So the question out there is why? So the reason for why out there is that data is always available in your mobile phone. So your mobile phone actually knows your secret. When I say knows your secret, kahit mag-incognito ka pa, kahit mag-private window ka pa in Mozilla or Google Chrome, stuff like that, kahit anong gawin mo, may data kang nilalog over the internet. And those data are actually being captured by different platforms and different companies right now. Depends on whatever platforms that you're using. For example, if you're familiar with, particularly, for example, na lang with Facebook. If you know Facebook, di ba, it has the setting of Facebook activity. So pag visit nyo of Facebook activity, makikita nyo doon na, hala, may ginamit ka palang bank account. Hala, nag-login ka pala sa Mobile Legends. Nakikita lahat ni Facebook yun. And this is very true because it's not limited to Facebook alone, but also with other companies. So the idea, the one I'm sharing right now, is in terms of the ethical issues being conducted in research. Now, to briefly illustrate what I'm saying, let me just share to you one research that I did I think that was around March that I did. So this one is about online class. So I actually utilize here Twitter. I'm not sure if you guys are all using Twitter, but these are the parts of the Twitter, right? So this is actually searching for online class keyword. So in the proximity that I did, I just actually put it in the Philippines. Okay? So right here, for example, may pangalan ka dyan. So that's a username. We have the comments, we have the retweet, and we have the sentiment, which is the tweet itself, and the number of likes, or the number of likes itself. So imagine these are all data that you are providing over the platform. Meaning to say, this is available. Even you think that it's anonymous for you, this is something that I can harvest, especially as a researcher in my field, especially in the field of data science. Now, these are the parts that, for example, can generate descriptive statistics. These are the parts that can generate analytics. And to probably highlight it better, let me just pull out this next slide. So this is an example of the scraped data in that Twitter. So remember, if you know SQL already, this is like the tabular format representation, but this is in a form of CSV file or Excel file. So we have there the columns Twitter name, username, comments, likes, retweets, and the tweet itself. So this is what I'm going to do with my research. And remember, this is a concept of ethical issue right now that I want you to remember. And right now, to be honest, if we talk about the internet, remember no one knows or no one owns the internet. So if we have a problem, for example, with Twitter, iba binili na siya ni Elon Musk, if you can still remember, or I don't know if you know that. Or if may problema kayo kay Facebook, iba ang hirap kasi imagine mo, kakasuhan mo ba yung Facebook kasi ginagamit ni Facebook yung data mo? Because the law does not govern the foreign areas, or for example in the jurisdiction in the US. So meaning to say, our law only provides, or our law is only scoped here in the Philippines. So if it's all about Data Privacy Act, Philippines lang yan. Paano kapag ayan, kunyari, in a way, this is called as hacking because I'm generating or scraping the data out of a platform. And in summary, just to share to you how what's my findings between or using the online class. By the way, for the context, this online class is actually generated from year 2020 up to this current year of 2022. So it's 2 years worth of data. It means these are 2 years worth of sentiments from all the Filipinos here in our country about the online class right now. So this is actually an example of the illustration of the output based on sentiment score analysis over months. So as you can see, I don't know if you can see it, but the first 3 months out here is from January, year 2020, remember, February, and March. So the line out here represents the 0, which means that the score is neutral, while the upper part out here, the one at the top, okay, is actually the positive score, while the one at the bottom is the negative score. And as you can see, diba, if you can still remember, nag-start ang pandemic around March of year 2020. Yun yung biglang lockdown. Biglang parang bago ka makapunta ng next city or area or next barangay, kailangan pupunta kang work, kailangan frontliner ka, kailangan IT ka, kailangan healthcare frontliner ka, stuff like that. And as you can see from the data, just for a quick overview, this one is around year 2021 na of October. So as you can see, nagiging positive na. Meaning to say, mga students right now and even the parents and the teachers are now adopting to the online class itself. And as you can see, no, around year 2022 na, so ito yun. By the way, that's for 2022, January and February na, nagkaroon ng anxiety yung mga students na bakit babalik ng online class? Di ba may COVID pa, blah, 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 etc. So, pero in reality, yung na-generate kong data, tinatamad lang yung mga students kasi convenient, parang masaya na. Di ko alam, parang mas nagustuhan niyo na yung Discord, ganyan. Di ko alam kung ginagawa yung milagro sa Discord. Pero may mga kita kasi akong ganun. Ko lang nagkokopyahan kayo kasi teacher din naman ako dati. But the reality out there is that I can scrape, I can generate my research based on those platforms. Okay? And another output, so these are just some of the examples. So here's the distribution using pie chart. So it's really negative sentiment, neutral 30, while positive is 28. So medyo mahirap yung positive kasi ang daming haha ng mga students. So the context out there is very difficult to understand because the sentiment does not end with haha. Di ba pag sabing haha, the context is happy, pero in reality, it's not really happy. So mga sarcastic lang. So that is something that I have to dive more. But again, in general, it is something that has to be ethical over the platforms that we are using over the internet. And at the same time, something that you have to keep in mind whenever you conduct and do data gathering and data collection as well. Now, for the webinar proper, so this is going to talk about the research itself, the research that we are doing here as an IT. As an IT student and as an IT professional, the developmental approach. So for the succeeding slides, I'll be showing you some of the designs in terms of writing your capstone and thesis papers. But I actually just focus on one chapter, which is the chapter 1, because there are really lots of things to discuss. And ultimately, what I will just highlight here are just some of the tips that you might be using from time to time. So this is not going to be like a discussion on how you do your paper, but these are just some of the tips or reminders for you to start working with your papers. Okay? So for the introduction, this is, I think, the easiest, I will say, or the most favorite of the students whenever they write their research paper. So proper itself. And you have to keep it short. And there's this connotation, what we call show. And don't just tell. Again, there's this connotation or concept in the paper called as show, don't just tell. So, what's the meaning of show, don't just tell? It means to say na pag introduction kasi, ang usual na nababanggit siya ng mga students is nowadays, for example, ito yung mga nakalagay sa paper, nowadays, the technologies is too advanced for whatever developments that we are doing right now. And this is very true, blah, blah, blah. Ang haba. Diba? Tapos parang kung ano nung pinagsasabi. So remember, that's not the point of introduction. The point of introduction is that don't just narrate everything, don't just tell, but show what you are doing as part of your feasibility. So for example, if you are doing point of sales, focus on the sales as an introduction. Like for example, right now businesses have challenges when it comes to managing their reports in terms of sales. And this is also very true right now with the pandemic that we are experiencing, blah, 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 so on and so forth. So meaning to say that you are showing the feasibility. You don't just tell a narrative that's too broad, that's too vague, and that's too general. Because that's not how an introduction should work. Okay? So I hope you keep that one in mind. So alam kong mga favorite lines nyo nowadays, in today's society, today, at present, blah, blah, blah. Parang ganyan. So wag sanang parang sobrang vague, sobrang general. It has to be something to do with what you are doing in your research. Second point is state the aims and importance. So you have to keep in mind that you have to give already at least an overview of the significance of what you are doing. So if you're going to do a system, a web application, or a mobile application, whatsoever, you have to keep in mind to already establish there the significance of what you are doing. So for example, if you're going to do an Android app, why are you going to develop an Android app? So you have to establish their sentences like, for example, for the students, we wanted, or you guys wanted to develop an application that will make it for them portable in terms of their e-learning management. So meaning, you already established the significance of what you are developing. But that's only an overview, and it's just not something that already discusses everything, but only a 1 or 2 sentence that only provides the importance or the aim already. The third point is that I already mentioned, don't give too many citations, don't give too much processes. And one tip that I can give you here is what we call thought pattern technique. So if we talk about thought patterns, or I wasn't able to put it on the slide, we can have, for example, prep thought pattern. So we talk about prep, it means point, reason, explanation, point. Actually, this is very useful when it comes to interview or constructing your thoughts. It means to say, for example, what's your point? you're going to develop an app. So what's the reason for that app? Okay, what's the explanation behind that app? And going back to the point, and that's the reason why you are going to develop that application. So in the third bullet, you have to point out here, or you can use techniques such as thought patterns. Okay? So meaning, for example, if you have 4 paragraphs, for example, this is your first paragraph, second, third, and fourth, you can establish here. The third is, for example, the web application, your solution. And going back to the point, which is the significance of the web. So meaning you're already conducting a variable for each of the paragraph, and it's actually a thought pattern in itself. So that you won't be misleaded, you will be guided on how you will construct your paper. And of course, don't forget to always state your research question. It has to already give the the significance, the one I mentioned here, which is like your fourth paragraph, which already establishes the idea being concerned with your study. Okay? And remember, don't bury your readers with too much detail. Again, it's only an introduction. Baka naman umabot na ilang page yung introduction nyo. Usually, it's just 1 page or 2. But the practice, it's always to have 1 page only. Okay? And part of the introduction, usually for some papers, they establish background of the study in another part. However, for some, they included it already in the introduction itself. So if we talk about background of the study, it follows this kind of analysis called a SWOT analysis. So SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So for example, take it like in a company. So for example, may isang company. And ang strength ng isang company is that they have good employees. They have licensed employees. Their employees are really productive. So magagaling empleyado nila, that's their strength. Okay? So meaning it is something that you discuss as part of the study. It can also be like the strength of the company itself. For example, the company is good when it comes to establishing relationship with the customers, with their milk tea business, stuff like that. And the weaknesses, for example, there's no much machineries, there's no practice, and although although magagaling employees nila, konti lang yung employees nila. And it can be discussed as part of the weakness. So if it's all about strengths and weaknesses, this is something internal to the company. You are discussing everything about the company internally speaking. Okay? Again, strengths and weaknesses. Now, for the opportunities and threats, this is something external to the company. So when I say external, it means to say, for example, there's an opportunity. Like we can discuss, they can acquire now system. They can have applications. They can have computerized, mobile applications, stuff like that. Whereas in the threats part, for example, there will be more data. Okay? Sorry for my handwriting. I'm just using my mouse. So there will be more data, meaning it will be time consuming to do the transaction. So as you can see, these are external to the company. And this one already establishes the study being undergone for your research itself. And again, it depends on the outline provided in your university. It can be part of the introduction or it can be in a separate format, which is like the second part already of your chapter 1. Don't forget, it follows SWOT analysis. Okay? The next part is what we call research paradigm. I rarely see this one or saw this one so far, but it can be part of your research paper. So I just put it there. It's called as an IPO model. For some, it's like they have fishbone diagrams, stuff like that. But IPO, which stands for input process output, which looks like this, okay, is actually one of those basic models seen when it comes to actually looking at the model being undergone through a whatever research that you are doing. Okay? And actually right here, I want to highlight here the term or the part of the process. So I know that it was already introduced to you by the former speaker, but I just want to quickly highlight here that if it's all about the research paradigm in terms of using agile methodology, you have to make sure that you are using Agile. And I've seen this one quite some time already from different universities as well. Marami nagde-declare ng Agile, pero hindi naman Agile yung ginawa. So when I say Agile yung ginawa, I was supposed to see like the process of Scrum here. I was supposed to see if you have the Asana, which was already introduced to you by the former speaker earlier. If you use Trello or Jira, it means that you use Agile and you use Kanban as a framework. So you have to make sure that you are using these processes, these techniques and tools for you to really say that you really use Agile methodology. And this is something that should not be, passive. Usually kasi pag sa mga schools, I'm not degrading the schools, but in general, from what I've seen, pinapalagay lang ng teacher yung Agile methodology, tapos hindi naman ginawa ng student. Tapos in reality, ang ginawa lang ng students or group of students in our team is they just develop their whatsoever system in a waterfall model. So when I say waterfall, di ba, it's like procedural in nature. Hindi ka tutuloy unless magawa mo yung previous phase. Diba, that's waterfall. And for most of the students, they do it that way. Why will I say so? It's because most of them, di ba, pag natapos yung system, doon lang sila nagde-data gather. So meaning waterfall na kasi may dependency doon sa previous phase. Kailangan matapos mo na yung previous phase bago gawin yung next phase. So meaning, if you're going to declare something with your documentation, make sure that you really understand what the paradigm is you're going to use or what you have used so far. Okay? Hindi dapat siya agilan or bigla lang sinabi ng teacher nyo tapos gagalit pa sila, dapat yun yung gawin nyo, dapat yun declare nyo. That's not supposedly the research, because the research is actually something that you did as a team and it's not something stated by anyone else. Okay? Next part to that is the statement of the problem. So I will not thoroughly highlight statement of the problem. It's actually one of the challenging part of any documentation and as well as any of defense proper. But right here, to give you an overview, it's just, it serves as the basis for the introductory section of your final proposal, directing your reader's attention, wherever it is, quickly to the issues that you propose in the project, which will address and provide the reader with a concise statement of the proposed project itself. So if we talk about statement of the problem, this actually already highlights your research title itself. So it cannot be like if you have a title, tapos ang dinidiscuss nyo sa title is point of sales lang, tapos sa problem nyo may binabanggit kayong inventory. Dapat, ang magiging title nyo is sales and inventory. Kasi problem nyo may inventory, dapat yung title nyo may sales and inventory. Something like that. So this one already provides what makes your research title your research title. And that's why it's mentioned here that this is the final proposal or the proposed project that was already approved by your panelists. And this is also same thing with the research that we are doing right now in the industry, especially in my field, data science. It is something that once it's approved, this is the concept that we have to provide later on with our stakeholders and clients. Okay? And this is also actually where we actually clearly identify, for example, the purpose of the research project you will actually propose or you have proposed so far. Okay? And this includes the following characteristics. So it should address a gap in knowledge. Whenever you do or state a research problem, it should address, like a problem-solving endeavor. Second, it should lead to further research because especially in IT, di ba, I don't know if nabutan nyo pa yung mga visual basic, nabutan nyo pa yung panahon na okay pa yung computerized system, ngayon land-based na, ngayon web-based na. Nagagalit pa yung teacher kapag masyado ng old yung ginamit. Because with our field right now, it should be something that's being coped up with the current pace. Third is that the problem should render itself the investigation through collection of data. So it has to be founded with the data. So whenever you conduct a problem, it should not be something biased na parang wala, yung kasi nakita kong problema eh. Hindi dapat, ang problem statement nyo should be based on the data. It can be from the gathered data or it can be from different research or different research. When I say different research, hindi ginugol nyo lang it has to mean that it is already a conducted research by other researchers. Okay? Meaning to say, it is founded in that kind of data. So that's how you state your problem. Kasi maraming students, whenever they do the research paper, nilagay lang nila na problema ng client yon, pero hindi naman pala talaga problema. And sobrang GG kayo sa defense, if ever. That is something that's founded by your panelists. The fourth bullet here says that it should be of interest to the researcher and suit his or her skills, time, and resources. So I want to highlight there the term interest and something that suits your skills. So when I say interest and suit your skills, you should not develop a game if anyone of your team doesn't know how to do Unity, for example. You should not propose web development if no one in your team knows how to do HTML, CSS, JavaScript, PHP, or other frameworks such as Laravel, and etc. So, hindi dapat kayo nagpo-propose ng project nang hindi yun skill nyo. Later on, I'll discuss that part in the objectives of the study. Whereas the last bullet is the approach towards solving the problem, which is similar to the first bullet. And again, it should be ethical. But right now, there's no governing law when it comes to the data, the technology, and the rest, because we really need to have those bills and those things that's running on the Senate right now. However, we don't have that someone right now, to be honest, who can do that kind of law. And this is something that's going to be a problem as well for the succeeding generation, for the succeeding researchers. And researchers, I mean. Okay? And for the next part, objectives of the study. So I will want to highlight this very quickly. It follows the SMART criteria. So if we talk about SMART criteria, it means specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. So given, for example, you have point of sales na lang. So if we talk about specific, pag sabing point of sales lang dapat yung laman ng paper and also yung dinevelop yung system, point of sales lang. Hindi dapat magkaroon ng, as what I mentioned, ng inventory. Okay? And that is something to do with specific, meaning you already declared what you're about to do. It is very specific to that only. The next part is measurable. There's this connotation in the industry called as what you cannot measure cannot be managed. Again, what you cannot measure cannot be managed. It means to say, just like the one I mentioned earlier, if you don't know what to do with the game development, you cannot develop it. If you don't know, for example, Android, for example, ang alam mo is Swift or C, meaning more of iOS development ka. So hindi mamamanage yung mismo study nyo because it has to do with that measurement. The third part is attainable. So what's attainable? So it's like those questions, do you have the right resources? And another example that I can give you probably with attainable, for example, iOS user ako, tapos gusto ko mag-develop ng Android app. So meaning I don't have the resources and it will be a great challenge for me to deploy an Android app because I cannot deploy APK format in an iOS operating system. Okay? The next part is relevant. Of course, the question out there is it worth pursuing? That's a question. And of course, time-bound. So you have to keep in mind that if you're going to have a study, you should be able to achieve it in a certain deadline. For example, if kayo, for example, as a student, maraming kwento akong masashare. One good example na lang will be, may ibang student nag-propose sila ng 3D game. Imagine 3D game ang pinropose. Tapos sa team nila, walang marunong mag-Unity. Tapos in general, to be honest, walang marunong mag-program. So that's what really happened to most of the students. So technically, time-bound pa lang, issue na. And measurement pa lang, issue na. So, as what I mentioned, what cannot be measured cannot be managed. Kaya, ang resulta, to be honest, GG, diba, ang tawag nga dyan, GG kids, GG well played. Kasi most of them, they don't have a programmer, they don't have someone who has the right knowledge, meaning they cannot do the study. That's it. So, if you want to really have the objectives, you have to consider this following criteria for you to develop that research that you are about to do. And lastly, scopes and limitation. I think this is something that you guys are really most familiar, this is like the answer to your problem earlier in the statement of the problem. Or for some concept papers, it's like the answer. But for example, if you have your sales management scope, this is technically just the features in your system. It means to say that the problem you seek to resolve is actually under this kind of parameters. Okay? Whereas if we talk about the limitation, this is actually about the extensity of the study that you are about to develop. Meaning to say, it has something to do with the effect of the end result of what you're about to do. For example, you develop an Android app and you mentioned that you don't have internet connection. So that's a limitation, for example, or stuff like that. Okay? Again, that's only an example. So again, I think you guys are very familiar with it. And just a tip, just put everything that you can do here based on your title. So, ibig sabihin, ito pala yung mali ng mga students ha. For example, ang dinevelop nila is sales. For example lang, favorite ko lang sales and inventory kasi yun yung pinakamadali naiintindihan. For example, sales. Imagine sales yung dinevelop. Tapos part ng sales is my reports. So, ibig sabihin nun, since yung title mo and problem mo is about sales, inintroduce mo pa siya sa introduction, tapos biglang ang nilalagay ng student, kunwari hindi nila nagawa tong mga sales personnel, wala sila nagawa ng sales promotion research part, or hindi nila develop yung part na yun sa system nila or web, nilalagay nila yan usually sa limitation. Remember, it's not a limitation. It's your own limitation as a student, but it's not a limitation of the study. Ulitin ko ang nilalagay sa limitation is the limitation of the study, not the student's limitation. Hindi yung limitation yun na hindi ko kasi kayang gawin hindi po kasi namin natapos So, yung hindi namin nagawa, nilagay namin sa limitation kasi limitation muna siya. Again, that's not the limitation because that should be part of the scopes because that is your feature for your approved title, your limitation. Okay? And of course, significance of the study, this is very something that you are already familiar. It just justifies the importance of the study being undergone. This is actually a question of who are the beneficiaries of your study. And that's it. And how were you able to help them? Okay? And for the research idea, I think ito yung napapansin kong favorite question sa mga students. Kasi part din ako ng mga parang Bachelor of Science and Information Technology worldwide. Programming Philippines, Programmers, Developers, yung mga groups na yan. So careful lang kasi may mga teachers din nakasali doon sa group na yon. So ang favorite question ng mga students, may idea ba daw sila na pwedeng ibigay na title for their capstone? To give you a quick answer for that, you can visit this 17 Sustainable Development Goals from United Nations. You can just visit their site wherein it highlights different approach and research. For example, no poverty, zero hunger, quality education. Pwede kang gumawa ng ELMS. Pwede kang gumawa ng mga games related to education, gender equality. Are you going to provide analytic solution? Clean water and sanitation. Are you going to provide, let's say, an application that automatically, notifies everyone that there is something happening right now in this particular area, for example? Ayan, so our world. Okay? So yan, para hindi na kayo mahirapan na mag-isip. And actually, I have some defense snips out here. So I think I'll just highlight it very, very quickly. So let me just pull out that part. Yeah. So I hope you can see the picture, I guess. You are not your user. Can you see that? Can someone please confirm? If you see the picture, you are not your own user.
Meron po.
All right. Thank you so much. So right here, these are some of the defense tips. So this is actually founded by me when I was still a teacher. So I just presented it here. So just for summary, you are not your own user. When I say you are not your own user, it says here, don't answer a question in a defense based only on your technical know-how. Answer based on your research and documentation. It will be biased if you just assume. And ako, sa panel way back then, ayaw ko naririnig sa student yung question or statement nila na I think. Pag sinabi niyo salitang I think, sir, the answer to that, ibig sabihin, unsure kayo. Pero whenever you answer it in a way na based on our research, based on our data, based on our gathering or collecting of information, this is how we found it out. Meaning to say, scholarly yung answer nyo, it is something founded in the study, not something founded on your feelings, on your technical know-how alone. So this is something that I want you to remember whenever you answer questions in a defense. Second point is, remember this one, research is like programming. So if you don't declare your variables properly, it will be an error. In programming, if you display the value of a variable, which is not declared as a data type, it will be an error. And same goes with research. If it's not stated by the company or target market, it's also an error. So the highlight here is that if it's not something stated by the company or your target market, it's not actually something that you're going to say. For example, sinabi nyo na problema nila yung logbook. Kaya lang pala nagsabi nun, pero hindi naman sinabi ng company. So GG kayo kasi remember, research is like programming. Pag may binanggit kayong variable, tapos hindi naman siya declared, yung variable na yun, it's a variable in research kasi. Meaning to say, it's an error. So doon na kayo gigisahin ultimately ng mga panelist nyo. Kailangan, yung sagot nyo, based siya sa appendices, based siya sa collected data or information, based siya dun sa mga tabulations nyo. Third is that follow an analysis and pattern. So this is what I already mentioned so far. The SWOT analysis, the SMART criteria. So dapat naka-pattern yung research study nyo. And avoid two negative statement. May ibang allergic na mga panelists when it comes to research paper. So right here, positive scripting should be exercised. Don't degrade any of the current status being used right now as a process. Just have it only as a point of reference. May ibang panelist, allergic sila in a way na ayon lang naririnig na problema ang manual system. Because the reality is that the manual system is not really a problem, but it's only imposing some challenges from time to time. Meaning to say, paano kapag lang pala kayo, parang small store, sari-sari store, tapos ang customer nyo lang per day is one customer. So do you think kailangan pa ba nila ng system? So that's the question. So meaning to say, if there are some connotations like there's too negative impression that sobrang problemado yung client, minsan naki-question siya ng mga panelists. Okay, so positive scripting dapat, instead of problems, use the term challenges. Okay? The fourth or I think the fifth tip that I can give you, reference are your friends. So just like what I mentioned earlier, for example, di ba, ayan, statement, manual process may produce slow transaction. So meaning, positive scripting yon, just like in the previous statement, pero the reference behind that is that based on your interview. Remember, whenever you answer, it should be based on how you conducted the study. Based on the interview, based on the transcript of records na may signature ng interviewing nyo, owner or the client itself. So that's how you're supposed to answer in any thesis format or in any capstone or defense ground. Okay? Ability versus probability. So output and chance is different. So for example, statement number 1, the company is using a manual process that makes their transactions slow. So that's like an ability. If we talk about the second part, the company is using a manual process that may lead to slower transactions. So meaning to say, yung pangalawang statement which is about the probability, hindi na may ibig sabihin na pag manual changes. Okay? And next part, no policies and requirements. This is very important. So for example, usually ang tanong ng mga clients or ng panelists nyo is, how do you come up with this? What is their current flow or their current process? Minsan pinapa-walkthrough pa nila kayo about dyan. Okay? And of course, words of power. Paano pag nagkamali yung classmate nyo or ka-team nyo or ka-thesis nyo? Diba? Pwede nyo sabihin itong mga magical words na to. For example, we would like to apologize that we're not able to cover that part. Kunyari may hindi kayong na-cover sa study. And pwede nyo sabihin na, kunyari makulit yung panel nyo, pwede nyo silang ibalik. For example, with this magical word, as far as the research is concerned, the paper and study only suggest. For example, point of sales lang kayo, tapos kinukulit kayo ng inventory, hindi nang part yun ng study nyo. So, kailangan nyo sila ibalik using this kind of words of power. Third, kunyari nahihirapan na kayo mag-English, May mga panel na ayaw nagpapatagalog, kala mo fluent din sa English eh. No? Pero kung nahirapan na kayo mag-Filipino, yan, sabihin niya, permission to speak in our native language, yung mga lines na yan. Or to elaborate and to better illustrate, allow me to use our native language, which is Filipino. And pag nagkamali pala, ito pala yung pag nagkamali yung classmate nyo or ka-team nyo, just to clarify what my co-proponent is saying, sabi dyan, if one of your members stated something wrong, correct them by saying this. Ayan. And of course, second part ng words of power, if being asked in a situation, for example, ito yung favorite ko itong pang-manipulate sa mga students. For example, when it comes to their preference and perspective, answer it honestly, but don't forget to subsequently discuss your paper. For example, tinanong ko kayo, which game will you play? Your favorite game? Kunyari, mahilig yung students sa Dota 2? Or your game development project? So parang ang technique ko kasi doon is, gusto kong maintindihan kung tama yung thought process ng students, kailangan magbalik nyo sa study nyo palagi yung ginagawa nyo. Kasi pag hindi nyo nababalik, kunyari, ako minamanipulate ko na kayo, medyo favorite ko siya way back then. Lagi ko sabihin, so, if Dota 2 is better than your game, why should we play your game? Parang ganon. Diba? Parang ganyan. Tapos, kung ano na pinagsasabi ng students, gisadong-gisado na sila. Ayan. So, and others, for the last point, some panelists consider themselves as your customer. And remember, the customer is always right. And lastly, ayan, ang defense ay parang love life, but may paglalaban kung alam mong ikaw ang nagkulang. So kung kulang-kulang yung study nyo, kulang-kulang yung research nyo, wala kayong data gathering, wala kayong interview, wala kayong lahat, hindi ko alam, kayo na nagkulang nun, hindi na yung study nyo. Okay? And going back, one quick na lang for other parts ng techniques, you can activate your user acceptance. So when I say activate your user acceptance, ibig sabihin, kapag may mga panelists na makukulit, parang ayaw na natanggapin yung ginagawa nyo, activate this magic card. So when I say user acceptance, so this is how you do your data collection. For example, you can actually make use of ISO model. For example, lang to, ang daming ISO model, but this is one good ISO model. One good ISO model is 25010, which you can actually use as a questionnaire. Parang survey. Sorry, ang pangit ng sulat ko. Survey. So usually nakakita yan sa latter part ng documentation. So i-activate nyo to kapag kung ano pinagsasabi ng panel nyo. It's like telling your panel that it is already accepted by your target market. It is already accepted by the company, something that they like. So you can make use of these questions. Itong nasa, you can just visit it or you can search it later on if you don't know it, using these metrics above. And from those metrics, di ba may mga score sila from 1 to 5. Tapos ang respondents nyo sasagot ng 5 or 4 or 3. Bibilugan nila yan. Tapos pwede nyo siya lang itali. And you can actually make use of average or weighted mean. So, for example, from 10 questions about functionality, ito functionality to, 4.67 actually says that this one is functional and very suitable when it comes to the system that you develop. So, ibig sabihin, almost perfect yung functionality ng ginawa nyo. And you can actually correlate this one to Likert scale. For example, kunyari, ang 4 to 5 nyo is highly acceptable. Pwede nyo interpret doon, kunyari sa last part ng research nyo na the system is perceived as highly acceptable by the company. So wala na magagawa yung panelist nyo kasi the undergone study is based on an ISO model which is actually founded in a study conducted in US. So gumamit kayo ng ISO model as your survey, hindi yung kung ano na lang pinagtatanong nyo. It's actually you adopt a questionnaire or study and you make use of a Likert scale to understand and to answer them the activate magic card according to our panelists or according to our client or target market that the functional suitability is highly perceived as highly suitable as the score perceived is 4.67 which is almost perfect when it comes to their acceptability. Another example will be signature. Very powerful na signature ng mga client and stakeholders nyo. And it only means that it is highly acceptable by the company itself. Kasi sila naman yung gagamit eh. Hindi naman yung panelist nyo yung gagamit. And once they accepted it, you can just ask them for a proof of signature and just attach it to your research paper that they already approve, that they're going to use already the development that you have gave them. Okay? And as we end, I would like to just highlight this term. So this is the last part. Sorry if I do it over time, but I think I'm in for 410, I think. So I like here to highlight the word information technology. Okay? We always focus as a student way back then, and even me as I was a student before, I always focus on the word technology. Ano ba yung gagawin kong system? Ano ba yung madali? Ano ba yung masayang gawin? So nagpo-focus agad ako na gusto kong i-develop game, gusto ko i-develop AI, gusto ko i-develop web app. But the reality out there is that we should not focus on the technology right away. We always focus first in terms of research about the information that we are doing. And only with the information that we can understand how to develop the technology that we are about to do. And this is about the developmental research under our field. And that's why information is the first word before the word technology. Without the data gathering, without the right information, without the study being conducted, you will not be able to have the solution or the system, the technology that you are about to develop or that you have done so far. Yeah, and that's about this webinar proper. This is about the developmental research. And that's why, remember, understanding research, and it's important, doing your capstone and thesis right now, is so important to start building those solutions and capabilities that helps people, businesses, and society as a whole. With that, a pleasant day to all of you.
Thank you very much po, Sir Iris J.V. Ganton. So, grabe naman yon, yung research na yon. Napaka-important talaga ng research sa atin, lalong-lalo na sa ating mga students. Kasi lalong-lalo na ngayon, kailangan natin ng research and especially sa mga ating kuyas natin from 3rd and 4th year. Kaya, aking tulong nito para sa atin. So, we have to proceed to the Q&A portion po. So, sir, from Huertas Wency James M. from BSIT4, is there other ways on how students will find it easy to develop research amidst synchronous or online education program?
Mm-hmm. Actually, from how I understood the question, it's more focused leaning towards on how you're going to do it right now in this online platform. But if your question, let me just answer in two approach. If your question is about how you're going to, address research development right now, with the pandemic, there's actually a boost of solutions, or when it comes to the demand of those solutions, it actually boosted. When I say boosted, it means na there are really lots of companies right now, different organizations and institutions, and even small businesses will now transition online. Meaning, there's a greater demand for the IT professionals to develop websites, develop applications. Meaning, mas marami tayong pwedeng i-develop. But if your question is about how to do it right now in this online platform, I think that is something that's really a challenge for everyone. However, as an IT professional, and if ever you will dive later on after you graduate in any IT professional grounds, in any fields, most of you will work remotely. When I say you will work remotely, online din yung setup ng pag-work nyo. So like me, remember in my introduction, I introduced that I'm now employed in a US company. Wala ako sa US pero nandito ako sa Philippines. So if your question is about the approach on how to do it right now online,
I think it's a good practice right now that you are experiencing it today. But the best thing out there is to actually practice productivity. And when I say productivity, you have to make sure that you have integrity on what you are doing. For example, you can make use of timers. I don't know if you know Pomodoro techniques, yung mga parang techniques ng studying or techniques like productivity management. You can do that. For example, in Pomodoro, it says there like dapat manood ka ng series. Kasi there's also a research, just to share, na whenever we want to process something with our brain, it's not helping us to actually relax. It actually tells us to process another load of information. So kung yung sinasabi yung pahinga, nagso-social media kayo, it's not pahinga. Kasi nagbabasa kayo. So pag nagbabasa ang isang tao, di ba nagpa-process ang brain? So kaya lalo kayo napapagod. And when I say break, you have to do it from time to time. You have to close your social media, your phones, your gadgets, or your books, or even talking to other person. You have to, let's say, just close your eyes, think empty, go to a quiet place, stuff like that. So those are just some of the things that I can share. But to answer the two approach for your question, again, in summary, first is that it's a good way of practice right now that you're experiencing it right now in an online platform. And second, there's a great demand right now for us to develop those solutions already. And you will really have lots of researches right now as well. And that's for my answer.
Thank you po. And for the next question po from Carino Palo SM from BSIT4R. What is the most desired skill that is required to become a successful researcher according to your experience?
According to my experience, that's a tricky question. Pero one skill, it's not skills necessary. Pero the great character that you must possess is that you have to always be curious. When I say you have to be curious, it's not something that I impose you. You have to be curious. It's an innate characteristic that you must possess. Meaning, you want to solve a problem. You're curious about different technologies right now. For example, like me, I'm really curious about how the data is being manipulated, being used right now with social media. For example, I discovered that there are really lots of techniques manipulating people over the politics right now. For example, ang dali-daling i-manipulate ng mga tao right now. Diba? So, curious ako dun. So, meaning, it's something that can be a skill right away as well. But if you want to hone a skill as a researcher, you have to make sure that you actually, invest your time in so many domains, especially in the field of IT. When I say different domains, for example, me as a data scientist, dapat alam ko kung saan ginagamit yung data. Dapat alam ko, kunyari, pinag-usapan is sales, pinag-usapan about sa electricity, bigla napunta ng signal processing, bigla napunta ng engineering, bigla napunta ng civil, bigla napunta ng accounting, di ba? Bigla napunta ng, different fields sa scene. Bigla napunta ng poverty, ang ecosystem, bigla napunta ng biology. Yan. So, again, going back to the right characteristic, it's not a skill that I'm answering, but the right characteristic is to be curious. But to hone your skill, you have to be involved on those different domains. And me, as a data scientist, that's what I did, or that's what I still do right now. But as an IT professional in different domains, as a researcher, if you will be a solutions architect, solutions consultant, project manager, or stuff like that, the most desired skill is that you have to be organized, you have to be involved in so many things for you to have the right mindset for any given domain of research and project. And that's for my answer.
Thank you po. And for the third question from Enriquez JBS from BSIT 3H. Methodology in developmental research?
That's a very good question. I didn't highlight it in our webinar proper because there are really lots of methodologies right now. When I say methodology, it is like the approach on how you will do the research. For example, if your study is about, one good example will be games. And your game is about like conducting it, for example, as a measurement if it's effective in teaching students, for example, for grade 1, about alibata. For example lang, wala akong maisip. Alibata na lang naisip ko na app na dinevelop nyo or game. So meaning to say, the methodology there is that you have to make sure that the study is using like quasi-research. When say quasi, it means there's a pre-test. Ibig sabihin, papasagutin nyo yung students or yung audience nyo ng 10 questions. Tapos, palalaroin nyo ng game nyo. Then, after 1 month, for example, papasagutan nyo ulit ng test nyo. So, for example, in the first test, naka 5/10 siya. Tapos, nilaro yung game nyo. Then, after laruin yung game, naging 8/10. It means to say that the research development is effective because it already increases and it already engages your audience to really learn more about alibata. So, ang daming technique. And it's not something that I can answer right now. Another example will be, for example, in the field of artificial intelligence. So, if I want to make sure that my research and my method is right, and I want to answer a particular solution, I shall make use of understanding what's the performance or the metrics of the model that I'm developing. So, for example, ang accuracy is 90%. Tapos, nung in-implement yung AI ko, yung chatbot ko, for example na lang, chatbot, nabawasan yung mga tao, pero it increases the revenue. Meaning to say, that's the development. It's more of the cost approach. So, when you talk about the methodologies, there are really lots of things. It depends on the domain of the research that you are undergoing. It depends on the development. If it's on sales, if it's on the people, if it's on human engagement, if it's on game development, if it's on application, the human interaction, stuff like that, ang dami. So that's why I didn't include it in the PowerPoint presentation. But to answer your question, there are really lots of methodologies.
Thank you po. And for the next question po from Tayao Jerome A. from BSIT 2A. Fake news, misinformation, and disinformation became more prevalent during this social media era, thus becoming a millstone or burden worldwide. Can developmental research help to elevate these issues? If yes, how? And if not, why?
Yeah. That's a very good question, and I think that is very suitable in my domain of expertise, which is about, the science of data, the data science. So, of course, it will really help. However, right now, okay lang ba maging totoo kasi konti lang naman ng watchers natin, baka sumbong nila ako. Siyempre, may sasabihin ako sa inyo mga secrets. Like, in the field of data science right now, I don't know if I already shared this one to you, pero I hope that you watch The Great Hack. I don't know if na-share ko siya sa previous engagement natin. Pero right now, with all the analysis, the development, the algorithms that we did, although we supported the same color that you are using right now in your team, sobrang daming data scientists ang nag-support for this particular presidential candidate. She talaga yan. Binanggit ko na she still lost the campaign. It's because, number one, there are really lots of fake news because there are really lots of people who have already established that fake news. And for us to battle it, we have to keep in mind to always go on the right reference. So when I say right reference, the right morality, the right ethics, diba? I don't know if naabutan niyo yung senior high school. Diba, nung nag-senior high kayo, meron kayong subject, Media and Information Literacy. Usually grade 11 yung particular subject na yon. Tapos tinuturo doon yung misinformation, blah blah blah. Pero ngayon, 'di ba, parang pansin mo ang dami nang naniniwala sa misinformation. That is because the machine learning algorithm produces that misinformation. And may iba hindi naman siya machine learning algorithm result. It can be like bumili sila ng 1 million likes na Facebook page, tapos pinalitan nila yung Facebook name, tapos ginawa nilang meme. Tapos puro kasiraan dun sa isang candidate. So what happened then, misinformed na agad yung mga tao. Kasi the reality, to be honest, there are really lots of people right now in social media, not in social media, but here in the Philippines. To be honest, not to degrade our country, but we really have that challenges when it comes to really understanding or having the context behind reading. Mahina talaga yung reading comprehension ng Philippines as compared to other countries. And that's a challenge. And although right now, siguro to answer ng
to really just share few research as well. Ang naalala palagi ng mga tao when it comes to politics, for example, is that apelyido, hindi yung tao. So when I say apelyido, for example, like right now, ang dami kong interview, for example, here sa Rizal na lang, sino yung binoto nilang governor? Ang sagot nila, Inares. Tinanong ko, kilala mo ba kung sino yung Inares na yun? Hindi nila kilala, pero binoto nila. It's because we have that challenges or problems. Sabihin na natin problem, pero gamitin yung challenges when it comes to our ability to really think. And it's really imposing a problem. And kahit anong study or kahit anong solution ang gawin mo, as long as the problem is the person, it will not really help. However, it can leverage, at least impose some navigations to those people who will at least receive the right information. So for example, based on that study, we can impose such campaigns in marketing. We can implement machine learning. We can implement websites that will impose those kinds of information to battle that challenges with the fake news, with the trolls, with the disinformation. However, hindi pa rin enough kung ang problem nga, as what I mentioned, is the person. Parang security lang yan. Kahit gano'n ka-secured ang platform, kung ang user natin is click ng click, di ba, ang bilis na lang hack, ang bilis na lang send ng, alam mo yung mga spam sa messenger, di ba yung parang, panoorin mo tong video na to, di ba parang may goodness ba? Bakit magkiklik yan? Parang wala bang subject ng media information dati? Yung tipong naka 90 plus ka sa media information, tapos pagdating sa application, walang-wala. So, this is something that's very challenging. And this is something that as a person or as a Filipino right now, I hope you can help as well, not just developing those solutions. Kasi right now, hindi gusto ng tao, to be honest, ng mga Filipino. There's also a study, one study I can share. Hindi gusto ng mga Filipino yung mag-isip, to be honest. Pag sabi ko hindi nila gusto mag-isip, for example na lang, sa mga presidential candidates natin, ang tumatatak sa mga tao is, kunwari lang baka unity. Yung campaign na, alam mo, sama-sama tayo sa pagbabago. Yun ang naintindihan nila. Pero ang hindi nila naintindihan, yung what is the bill, what is the law that they have written, what's the research behind the data, blah, blah, blah. Di ba may ganun tayong candidate sumagot? Ayaw nila nun. And this is something that's very crucial in our country. But to answer your question, although may mga research akong ganun, although nakikita ko yung mga troll machineries, kahit ganun hindi siya matutulungan unless the problem is the person. And that's for my answer.
Oh, yeah, mga marurupok sa pag-ibig, marupok pa sa fake news. Nako. So, next up po tayo. Last question. Long Mark Joseph R. from BSIT 3I. What is the difference between developmental research and applied research?
Yep. Actually, the concept of applied and developmental is the same. When I say applied, it means that you are actually connotating a product offering and result. Meaning, you have undergone a study because you have an output that you want to show later on. And developmental is also applied in nature because you're applying more on not the theories anymore, but more on the concepts that doesn't need to undergo manual process. When I say manual, ang research kasi ng ibang course is, as what I mentioned, is descriptive. Pag sabi descriptive, proving, may pinoprove lang sila na ito yung tama. Yung mga binanggit kong research kanina, for example, yung research about na apelyido lang inaalala, it's not applied. Somehow it's descriptive because they don't have that output. They only want to describe and to prove that there's something wrong with the Filipinos. And when you do developmental, it can also be applied, but you are more focused on, having that kind of output. And vice versa, it can also be developmental or applied. Pero applied kasi straightforward Pero kapag descriptive, yung sinasabi ko kanina descriptive, hindi siya straightforward. Hindi sila gumagamit ng mga Excel or SPSS or mga statistical tools. They do it manually. So pag nagka-calculate sila ng statistics nila, kasi research to yung tinatakal ko is statistics and research as well. They do it manually. They can do it like Excel just to prove, pero
hindi nila ginagamit yung parang how should I explain this? Parang, for example, in test of difference, if you're familiar with it, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, pero it identifies what kind of difference is it the hypothesis going to be approved or not. So you can just dive on it later on, and I might be too technical to explain it to you at the moment, but the answer, developmental is also applied, but it depends on the context of what you are doing in the research.
Thank you po, Sir Aris, for answering the 5 questions that are, yeah. So, yun na nga, guys. Yung mga galit na galit niya sa research. What we learn is may value si research, ha. We don't do research just to pass sa mga teachers and profs natin. Hindi man siya tangible, but we realize na unti-unti tayong nakikinabang sa research. Tama, di ba? Tama. And to acknowledge our pangmalakasang speaker, may we have our angelic guardian to the virtual stage, another student advisor of SWEETS, Miss Paloma Lynn Aldevarez, to award the Certificate of Appreciation.
Ayan, so thank you so much to our host. And now, let me read the certificate. This certificate is given by Bulacan State University College of Information and Communications Technology and Society for the Welfare of Information Technology students. This certificate of participation is proudly presented to Mr. Aris J. Viganzon for sharing his knowledge and expertise during the webinar entitled Sixth Realm of Technology, the Exploration of Developmental Research, given this 21st day of May 2022. Signed by Mr. John Michael Colizon, the Faculty Advisor of SWEETS, Mr. Sheldon V. Arenas, also the Faculty Advisor of SWEETS, Mr. Rainiel A. Janicio, the President of SWEETS, and Dr. Kino Sipiad, our CICTD. So once again, thank you so much, Mr. Aris J. Viganzon.
Any message po?
Na caught off guard ako dun sa message. So once again, I think it was already mentioned, but I also want to really just appreciate the organizers for this webinar event. And I think the term is medyo suki na daw kami, as what the admin director mentioned, so which is the previous speaker. So just in case if you want to know more other fields, don't hesitate to reach out to Exit Philippines page. We're always honored and privileged to share what we know. And just for you, if you have more questions, especially in my field of the innovation research of artificial intelligence and data science, you can reach out to our page or even to me directly in Messenger. Pero mag-ano lang agad kayo ng parang, alam mo yan, introduction that you are from this school and you wanted to know more about this stuff. And yeah, by the way, if ever, you can just check it out kasi like in the next month, I'll be conducting my own data science bootcamp. So I will want to really pass on the success of being a data scientist to the future generation, which is you guys, which is not being taught in any universities and colleges at the moment, but only in master's degree. So if you want to dive more, I hope you can really just follow and like our page, or you can just message me as well. And I will be so willing to help you guys out. Yun lang, stay safe everyone, especially this COVID-19. And I hope you do learn lots of things. Thank you so much.
Of course, we can't forget our Kasweets who joined us, who made our realms extra special. Please step up to the virtual stage to our powerful guardian, the Executive Vice President of SWEETS, Miss Misra Imcano, to award the Certificate of Participation.
Okay, so thank you so much sa ating host, Carla. Thank you very much. And of course po sa ating two valuable and knowledgeable speakers for today. So maraming salamat po mga sir. And of course, hindi natin kakalimutan ang lahat ng ating mga participants, lahat ng mga active listeners natin ngayon sa FB Live, and of course, yung ating mga participants dito sa Zoom. So to award the Certificate of Participation, let me read the citation. Bulacan State University College of Information and Communications Technology, Society for the Welfare of Information Technology Students, Certificate of Participation. This certificate is proudly presented to you, our dearest sweets, for his or for your active participation during the webinar entitled Sixth Realm of Technology, the Exploration of Developmental Research, given this 21st day of May 2022, signed by, of course, our beloved two faculty advisors, Mr. Sheldon V. Arenas, Mr. John Michael Calizon, of course, our president, Mr. Rainiel A. Janicio, and our CICT Dean, Dr. Kino Cipial. And that's it. Thank you so much, and congratulations din po for all the learnings na nakuha natin ngayong hapon, and thank you so much again po sa ating mga speakers. Back to you, Carla.
Thank you, Ate Raim. And we can't let this slide because this is a powerful event, diba? Hindi lamang pag-edit at pagsasalita ang kayang gawin ng ating organization. Wanna know why? Well, let's step up to the virtual stage, our own Sweets Technical Committee, Matthew Nego, to showcase his talent. Kaya naman, Sweets, assemble!
Matigal ding nawalan ng gana, pinagmamasdan, tumaraan, lagi na lang matigas ang loob, sabik na may maramdaman. Di ka man bago sa paningin, palihim kang nasa yakap ko't lambing. Sa bawat pagtago, di mapigilan ang bigkas ng damdamin. Walang sagot sa tanong kung bakit ka mahalaga. Walang papantay sa'yo. Walang sagot sa tanong kung bakit ka mahalaga. Walang papantay sa'yo. Kung may darating man na umaga, gusto kita sanang muling marinig. Hindi mo lang ang nakikita ko, tauhin man ng silid. Walang papantay sa'yo. Maging sino man sila, ikaw ang araw sa tagulan, sa maulap kong umaga. Walang sagot sa tanong kung bakit ka mahalaga. Walang papantay sa'yo. Walang Walang sagot sa tanong kung bakit ka mahalaga. Walang papantay sa'yo, maging sino man sila. Walang sagot sa tanong kung bakit ka mahalaga. Walang papantay sa'yo, maging sino man sila. Pa-di-di-da-pa-pa-di-da. Walang papantay sa'yo, maging sino man sila. Pa-di-di-da-pa-pa-di-da. Pa-di-di-da-pa-pa-di-da. Walang papantay sa'yo, maging sino man sila. Pa-di-di-da-pa-pa-di-da. Pa-di-di-da-pa-pa-di-da. Walang papantay sa'yo, maging sino man sila. Walang papantay sa'yo, maging sino man sila.
Char. And because it's the last realm of technology, let's look back and appreciate the people who became part of the past 6 realms.
Hi, this is Roy Roberto, championing data science and digital transformation in Asia, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the Society for the Welfare of Information Technology Students, definitely one of the most proactive student-led organizations in Bulacan State University, for their successful conduct of their Haxology webinar titled The 6 Realms of Technology, where I talked about the common applications of data science and artificial intelligence. I think this is a super great initiative so that your member constituents will have access to private sector knowledge base. And I hope you will be updated about the recent trends, the breakthroughs in the industry. And kudos to the organizers, especially President Rainiel Junicio, for putting this event together. And I hope you will continue to organize similar events in the future. Thank you, and once again, congratulations.
Hi everyone, Harold Apolinario here from Exceed Philippines, and I would like to congratulate the Society for the Welfare of Information Technology Students, or SWITS, for their successful webinar series about the 6 realms of technology. You have really outdone yourselves in carrying out this event to share your knowledge to your fellow students and other participants as well. I also would like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to be a part of this wonderful endeavor. Thanks also to the people who attended this event, and always remember to continue learning your way to your success. Thank you.
As we continue to see the trends of IT, we need a new set of leaders to drive the digital transformation. You are the leaders of the future. So, continue to excel, exercise, and extend as the next generation succeeds. #Exceed. To the Society for the Welfare of Information Technology students from the Bulacan State University, congratulations on your very successful webinar series. We from Exceed Philippines are very much grateful to be part of your journey towards the realm of technology. Best of luck, guys!
I would like to congratulate the Society for the Welfare of Information Technology students from Bulacan State University College of Information and Communications Technology for a successful Haxology webinar. Thank you so much for inviting me, and I hope for everyone that participated, you guys learned a lot and you're able to share and apply what you have learned in our session. Looking forward for your success and hoping to see you in the industry very soon. Good luck, guys, and stay safe.
Hi, Sweets and Bulacan State University. First of all, I would like to thank the organization and the organizers for having a very successful and very well-prepared event. And it's really an honor for me to be part of that successful event and share my knowledge as a speaker for the students. So I hope you continue your passion in bringing helpful events in the communities, especially for your students. So yeah, thank you again, Sweets and Bulacan State University, and see you on your next event.
Hello, Swift. So it was really an honor to be part of your webinar. So congrats to the organizers for making this happen, and thank you to the students and the faculty members that attended this wonderful event. So I hope we all learned a lot as we heard topics ranging from design, development, management, and basically anything under the umbrella of technology. So best wishes for everyone in their IT journeys.
We thank you for always saying yes to our invitations and for completing the 6 realms, our dear speakers. We need more, right? We need more. We need more. Anong more yon? More performance po galing sa ating suites officers. Kaya naman, let's call on the Virgil Face, its Finance Committee, Eunice Santos. Wow, grabe. Ate Eunice, pahampas. Gusto ko rin yan. Sure. And to formally introduce our new and improved organization, let us call upon our lovely president, Mr. Rainiel Dionisio, to introduce the suites recalibrated.
Hello. Clear na ba ako ngayon? Okay. Nagna-notify kasi kanina. Okay. Thank you once again to our Masters of Ceremony. Today is the finale of the 6 realms of technology, but definitely this will not be the last. With that, let me introduce the backbone of all the events of the organization. The people behind the curtains, the people I am thankful for, and the people who will continue the legacy of the organization for the future. And also the people whom I want to congratulate right now, because kapapasok lamang po na announcement, our organization or the Suites organization is currently awarded a 2.0.
one thing to be taught is dreams are made to be caught, and friends can never be bought. Doesn't matter how long it's been, I know you'll always jump in, 'cause we don't know how to quit. Let's start a riot tonight, a pack alliance tonight. In this world, he who stops won't get anything he wants. Play like the top 1% till nothing's left to be spent. Take it all, ours to take, celebrate because we are the champions, setting it off again. Oh, we on fire, we on fire, running our own campaign, doing the whole shebang. Oh, we on fire, we on fire. Get up, stand up, throw your hands up. Welcome to the other land of dreamers, brothers, sisters, others. Yeah, we all fight like that. Oh, the bond is deeper than skin, the kind of club that we're in, the kind of love that we give. Whoa, whether it's the dawn of mankind, we all belong to a tribe. It's good to know this one's mine. Let's start a riot tonight, a pack alliance tonight. In this world, he who stops won't get anything he wants. Play like the top 1% till nothing's left to be spent. We don't care, we won't stop. Call your mothers, call the cops. We are the champions, setting it off again. Oh, we on fire, we on fire, running our own campaign, doing the whole shebang. Oh, we on fire, we on fire. Get up, stand up, throw your hands up. Welcome to the other land of dreamers, brothers, sisters, others. Yeah, we all fight like that. And nothing's gonna be the same. Oh, we're the we are the champions, setting it off again. Oh, we on fire, we on fire, running our own campaign, doing the whole shebang. Oh, we on fire, we on fire, the hardest before. Hey, and nothing's gonna be the same.
Like no one you met before. I'm running for the front when they're all running for the door. And I won't sit down, won't back out. You can't ever shut me up, 'cause I'm on a mission and I won't quit now. In a world full of followers, I'll be a leader. In a world full of doubters, I'll be a believer. I'm stepping out without a hesitation, because the battle's already been won. I'm sold out, I'm no longer living just for myself, running after Jesus with my whole heart. And now I'm ready to show I am sold out. I'm sold out with every single step that I take now, with every drop of blood that's in my veins. I'm gonna be making it count. I am sold out. This ain't just some temporary phase. You can't face this kind of grace and leave the way you came. trials coming against me can burn a dead in my passion. They're just an opportunity to put my faith into action. In a world full of followers, I'll be a leader. In a world full of doubters, I'll be a believer. I'm stepping out without a hesitation. I ain't got nothing left to be afraid of. I'm sold out. I've been living just for myself. This is my whole heart. I'm ready to show. I am sold out. I'm sold out. Everything I take now. In my veins, gonna be making it count. I am sold out.
Oh, if there's one thing to be taught, is dreams are made to be caught, and friends can never be bought. Doesn't matter how long it's been, I know you'll always jump in, 'cause we don't know how to quit. Let's start a riot tonight, a pack of lions tonight. In this world, he who stops won't get anything he wants. Play life